Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Channel 6 TV, Community Focus here in Nelson County. I'm Kenny Fogle, your host. Glad you could be with us tonight as we're going to count down to November 6th. And that's a big day for all of us here, not just in Nelson County, Bardstown, but around the world, as that is voting day. And that's the day when you get the chance to have your voice heard. And that is the most important thing I think you can do. But we'll get into that more as we go on throughout the next few weeks. But right now, we're going to give you the opportunity to meet candidates, people that learn a little bit about who they are and why they're running for office, and to give you a good opportunity to know who you can vote for and have an educated vote when you go in the voting booth. I got with us today Betty Kelly Hart here with us today. Betty, first of all, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad you
for having me.
So you and I have talked many times about many subjects over the years.
Yes, we have.
And, but this is the first time, I guess, any political subjects. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about who Betty Hart is and,
okay.
and what you've been doing all your life.
Okay. I was born and raised in Bardstown. Married and raised my 3 children here. My husband is passed away. He was Steve Hart, the coach and athletic director at Bethlehem, math teacher.
And a super guy.
And a super guy. One of the best. I started my working career in Bardstown in 1981, working at the Talbot Tavern. I did that for 20 years as marketing director. Then from there, I went to the Stephen Foster Story, where I worked with you and a lot of other good board members for almost 10 years. The last 5 of those were as general manager. When I left that, I had the children's clothing store downtown, Jack and Jill Children's Boutique. After 5 or 6 years with that, I decided I wanted to retire. Well, that lasted about 3 months. And I figured out very quickly that I was not somebody that wanted to retire. I needed adult interaction on a daily basis and had always, done that. So that's when I went and got my real estate license. And I'm currently a realtor with Demery and Hubbard. Okay.
Well, you've been around politics most of your life, whether you've been involved or not, but I know you've been involved with your son, matter of fact. I mean, obviously, so you know what you're getting into.
I do.
So, and you still chose to do it anyway.
I did. My ex-husband was county attorney, and the first time he ran, it was a very contested race, and we worked very hard. He was successful, thank goodness. My son was in a 3-way contested race for district judge, and he won that after all of us working very hard. So my kids weren't too excited when I said, you have another campaign in you, but of course they're behind me. I have discovered very quickly, I've been the candidate's wife and the candidate's mother.
Yeah.
To be the candidate myself is not quite as tough yet, anyway, as being the candidate's mother. That was probably the hardest.
I can see that because nobody wants to say anything bad about your kids. So.
Exactly. I lost sleep over, probably during that campaign. I haven't lost sleep over mine.
That in a way, and for me, as being a candidate, it's one of the hardest things is what you put your family through.
Right.
Because I saw what my wife went through, and I saw what my kids and other family members went through, because they would say something about me, and it really wouldn't bother me that much, but it would bother them, and I would notice, and I felt bad about it because it put them in a bad position. But
and I think that's the way with all of us. We're human, and we can talk about our spouse, or we can talk about our kids and fuss about them a little bit, but don't let somebody else.
Exactly. So when you get in the political ring, you expect people to come after you a little bit,
right?
Obviously, because it's a contested race, and it's a publicly contested race. It's not something like you put in an application and you may or may not get the job, but everybody and their brother is going to be on Facebook or somewhere. They're going to say something good about you, something bad about you, and they say you got to have tough skin, but you're still human.
Right. Absolutely.
So politics can be ugly, but what about it is that finally was the straw that made you think, well, I want to get into this? I know it wasn't the politics. It had to be something else.
It wasn't. It was something, that had kind of been in my mind for a few years. Of course, when, John ran a few years ago, that wasn't the right time. And he was needed at that point and has done a wonderful job. Someone called me and encouraged me to run, so I took quite a bit of time and thought about it, talked to my children. And then, finally just kind of determined I've done community service all of my adult life in Bardstown, and so I just kind of see this as an extension of that.
Well, when you said the Stephen Foster story, obviously you had a twofold thing. One is promoting the Stephen Foster story, and secondly, it's sort of somewhat as a cheerleader for Bardstown, because you're somewhat of an ambassador in a way there, because
Absolutely.
when they came to the Stephen Foster story, they weren't just coming to the amphitheater, they were coming to Bardstown.
Right.
And I remember Davy Jones said years ago he loved to come in and visit in our little village, he said. That still sticks in my head. But
That was a great concert. By
it
the way.
was a great concert, but the thing is they do visit our village. And so what is it that when you look at Bardstown, what makes you proud, or what makes you think we got some issues to work on?
Well, obviously our people, I think, is our number one strength. Even going back to my marketing days at the tavern, I was selling the tavern, but I was selling Bardstown.
Yeah.
Because no one entity in Bardstown right now is a destination on its own. It takes the entire town.
That is true.
So, we may get to a point where things might change, but right now and of course, bourbon's feeding it right now. I think the thing that really pushed me is, and I think I could do this whether I'm elected councilwoman or not, but I think that I might have a little more insight and help if I do get elected, is the drug issue. That's what I hear so much when people talk to me about my candidacy, and I really want to do something with that. I had a conversation with Mayor Heaton about a month ago about forming some type of task force in Bardstown that might involve, obviously, council people, perhaps magistrates, a coroner, a police officer, a nurse, all these people who see this on a daily basis. I don't. And I'm fortunate that I don't, but there's a lot of people that do. So I really feel like if we all pull together, I'd like to see what we can do to start with our youth, and whether it involves more training, classes at the high school, hard evidence at the high school. I'm very naive when it comes to drugs. If somebody put something in front of me, I would not know what it is. So it's a good thing that my children are raised. But I would like to be educated. I would like to know.
Well, we do have a serious drug issue, no question
We
about
do.
it. I think anybody that says we don't, but the thing is like you said, you don't have to know drugs, but a leader has to bring the right people together.
Right. And then, it was after the mayor and I had that conversation, about 2 weeks after that, he was in Cincinnati for a family vacation and sent me a copy of a newspaper. And there's a gentleman up there, I forget what his title was, but it was in small town in Newport, that had actually done exactly what I want to do. And so now he's going around speaking to communities about it and telling you how to get started. So that's one of the things that I definitely want to do.
Oh,
that's my main thing. Ever since my kids were little, and probably even when I was a youngster, people say that we don't have enough things in Bardstown to do for kids, and I agree with that. So one of the things early on that I thought about was the water park. I spent an afternoon this summer with some of my grandchildren and took them down to Russell Sims Aquatic Center in Bowling Green. I don't know if you've been down there.
I've heard of it, never been there.
It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And it is so clean and well-staffed. And we just had a wonderful afternoon there. And so I asked a few of the employees down there who owned it. Was it privately owned? Was it city-owned? And they didn't know. But, of course, I got online when I came back and found out that it is city-owned. So I've had some conversations with the people in Bowling Green, finding out how much does it cost? What's it cost to run it? I got a copy of their budget, and obviously it doesn't stand on its own. It's supplemented by city funds. But, those are just some things, some ideas that I have that I'd like to explore.
Well, going back to your Stephen Foster days and marketing days at Talbot Tavern, we've got an extreme shortage of hotel space.
Yes, we do.
It's hard to bring tourists in when there's no place to put them.
We do. And I think that's the reason why we have so many Airbnbs popping up. Like I said, I'm a realtor, and I have some clients from Chicago that are now looking to purchase a B&B in Bardstown. And I have found one that used to be a B&B and was very excited about it and sent it to them when they were coming down to look at it. Well, then I started to check into zoning, and zoning has certain guidelines you have to follow, and there's already several Airbnbs on the street where this old bed and breakfast used to be. So I didn't realize, and then that forced me to go further and look up how many Airbnbs we have in Bardstown. And it's a great number. And I'm glad that those people are able to follow their ventures, but that's another indication that we need more hotels.
Well, you brought up planning and zoning. Obviously, that's an issue that you probably deal with more in real estate than the average person has to deal with. I mean, I sold my mom's place a few years ago, and I learned more about planning and zoning just in that 3 months than I'd really known in a long time.
I've been fortunate, I guess, because I haven't had any issues. Selling mostly, residential property, you don't really come across it that often unless somebody wants to do something that you think they might not be able to do.
Right.
And, looking up covenants and restrictions and things like that. So I don't know if we'll get the B&B thing worked out. But
yeah, well, like I said, that's and also as far as real estate, I mean, that's been an issue of housing. I mean, I know some people say we've got a shortage of housing in Nelson County and Bardstown. Is that something that?
Oh, we absolutely.
Is that
do.
something we can the city could even address? I mean,
I guess probably maybe by annexation, so that you get the structures and water lines and things like that in place. I think it's slowed down quite a bit. 6 months ago, if I'd listed a house anywhere between $100,000 and $150,000, it wouldn't have been on the market a day or two.
Yeah.
Now we're up to about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it does seem to have slowed down a little bit. I will say though, August has always been, since I've been doing real estate, has always been the slowest month of the year.
Yeah.
Even slower than January. And January is not slow by what I would have thought. But now that September has hit, it's picked back up. And we'll probably see an increase after the Bourbon Festival, which happens every year.
Yeah.
Because people come here and visit and decide they want to live here. That's how my Chicago folks found their way here, is they've come to the Bourbon Festival and decided that's where I want to live.
That's a good promotion for the town. So,
Absolutely.
Well, again, being in real estate, and your time is a little flexible, I guess, because city council, I don't think people realize how time consuming that can be sometimes.
Right.
And it's not just showing up for a meeting a couple nights a week.
Right. I had a long talk with David Dones, who is one of my neighbors, about the time commitment, because I was concerned about that. I'm busy and I like being busy. I have 7 grandchildren that I don't want to miss a ball game or those activities. And then I talked with John about it as well, just to get an idea of what the time commitment is.
Yeah.
So as I sit here right now, I don't see that it's a problem.
So city council, that's on your mind right now. So is there anything that you really think we need to talk to voters about that they don't know about you, that maybe they should before they go to the voting booth?
I can't, really think of anything. I don't like to think, that I'm, everybody knows me or I'm popular. I don't have that kind of outlook. Someone recently told me they thought I'd have a problem with name recognition. And I assumed that he meant because a lot of people don't know me as Betty Hart. I still get called Betty Kelly, several times a day. Right. Which is okay, because that was my name for 25 years.
That's another issue. We could do another show on that someday. It's why women have to change their name.
Exactly.
But that's a whole new show.
Yeah. That really stunned me, that I thought that somebody would not know. And I said, because I'm Betty Hart and people know me as Betty Kelly. Yeah. Oh, no. He said, nobody in this town knows you. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what I walked away from. And I'm thinking, well, maybe people don't know me as many as I thought.
Well,
so I don't know.
If they've been involved in the city, because I've been around and doing different things. If they've been involved around here for the last 20 years and they don't know you, then they've had their head buried in the sand to some degree.
I had 20 years at the Tavern.
Exactly, with the Tavern Tavern, Stephen Foster, and is a store owner downtown.
I was in JC ETS, JC Women, JC's. I've been on the Tourist Commission. I've served 10 years on that. Spalding Hall, involved in my church, involved in my kids' school, the Bethlehem School Board, so.
Well, I can almost bet you the odds are the person told you that doesn't vote. But that's another story. that's another story.
Which is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
I agree with what you said in the opening. even though, you know, it's not a presidential year, I do hope that people will take the time to get out and vote.
And I'm going to challenge people to do it and learn your candidates. It's a shame when somebody tells a candidate of somebody that's been around and doing things. I know you were Woman of the Year one year for Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
I mean, you don't get to do things like that by sitting home and nobody know who you are, because if someone doesn't know who you are by now and they've been involved in local area, then again, I don't think they've been paying attention. So that's simple as that. So sometimes I'm afraid people know me too well. So that may be my problem. But well, thank you for coming in here today. I do appreciate you doing that. We wish you the best. And
Thank you very much.
if it's, like I said, anything you need to let the voters know is who to vote for on election day.
Well, you know, obviously I want to be elected. I appreciate anyone's consideration because we all, you know, want to do that. I had two of my granddaughters with me yesterday, and they had my business cards in the back seat, and I didn't know they were doing this, and I was at the drive-thru, and I looked in my window, and they were laughing. They both had rolled down their windows, and they were holding my business cards up. And then they started asking me about how many people and all that, and one of them got really upset. If she said, "Well, Grandma, I really want you to win," you know. So
never slow them down. The kid wants to get out and do that. Let them do it.
Yeah.
So, well, Betty Kelly Hart, we'll let everybody know. Like I said, that it is an issue, and name recognition always is an issue. But people, I really do believe people that are out studying find out who they're going to vote for, and again, that's why we do this. So hopefully people will take time to pay attention. So,
thank you. Well, you know, what I'd like to close with, if I may, is when I was in the JCs for as long as I was, you know, there's a creed that the JC follows, just like Rotary or Optimist. But the last line in the JC creed that we said at every function was that service to humanity is the best work of life, and that's how I feel. That's how I feel.
That's the way it should be. Betty Hart here with us today. Appreciate you tuning in, running for Bardstown City Council. Again, Election Day, Tuesday, November 6th. Right now, you've got one thing to do, and that's pay attention to us while we're doing these shows. And on November 6th, that's when you have your hard part to do, which is simply showing up to the voting booths and pulling a lever or pushing a button or writing a name, whichever voting booth you happen to show up to. But again, November 6th. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back with this more of our community focus right here on Channel 6 TV right after this.